Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this video. Today we're moving on to lesson 5. It's powers and exponents, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about this, getting into it. So let's go ahead and open up our packet to lesson 5. If you were in class, you knew that I'm passing back the quizzes from yesterday, which pretty much everybody did really good. Good job. And then I also talked about 7th grade for next year, so we could just chat about that a little bit, which I'm going to talk about at open house with the parents. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started here and get into this lesson. We're finally going to need that calculator, so have it ready. We used it a little bit with division and simplifying, but let's get into this thing. Okay, so powers and exponents, right? Okay, in the case of repeated multiplication with the same factor, the product is called the power, all right? The power. So product is called the power. The power and the product are the answer and can be written in exponential form using a base and an exponent. These are factors. What's another way to write that? Well, we can write that as 3 to the 1, 2, 3, 4th power. Base, exponent, right? So this is the base and this is the exponent. Important to know. Okay? Now, we're not going to do all of these because it kind of gets repetitive, but we'll start with every other one here. We can write these in words. This would be written as 3 to the first power, and I'm going to abbreviate power. And let's skip one. This could be written as 3 to the third power. And I'll let you get caught up. It's 3 to the third power, right? And the last one we'll do is this one. This is going to be as 3 to the 5th power. Okay? So you're getting the idea. We have a base, we have an exponent. Now, the exponent tells us how many times to multiply the base by itself. So if we look at these buttons at the bottom, okay, we're going to start off and we're going to write these out. This is expanded form, and then we have exponential form. Exponential form is just writing it with a base and an exponent. So this is going to be 7 to the third power. This is going to be 12. This is kind of ridiculous, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the 8th power. Now, number 3 is kind of unique because it has two numbers, so we're going to start with 4 to the second power, all right? And I'm going to use a dot. Remember, we can use a dot for multiplication. 9 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the 5th power. So I'm going to interchange an x with a dot all the time. I try to not use an x most of the time because it is going to be the most common variable that we use. The next one is 25 to the 4th power times 3 to the 4, 5 to the 6th power. Okay? Now, when we get into exponents, the idea of using a calculator is imperative. We're going to get into some really big products, all right, or powers, right? The power is the answer to the problem. All right, let's go back and write these in expanded form. So this is going to be 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 because it's 1 to the 5th power. Okay? I'm going to skip this one because that's ridiculous. 16 to the 11th power. I'll never get 11 16s across there. So let's take a look at number 7. This is going to be 2 to the 3rd power times 9 to the 7th power. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we were to plug that into our calculator, punching all that in, we get this giant number. So I'll show you a quicker way to do it with your calculator. The last one is 10 to the 6th power. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 28 to the 2nd power. Okay? So go ahead and take a peek at those. Get kind of caught up there if you're on the video. I'm kind of moving through this pretty quick because it's pretty easy. The next piece, we're going to need our calculator here because we're going to be solving some things here, okay? Now, let's flip it. Okay. Now, it says find the value of each power, right? So the whole thing is called a power, a base and an exponent, and the answer is called the power. But let's stick more to the product. I like product because it's all multiplication, okay? All right, so this, a lot of times, and I recommend this just as we begin, is 6 times 6. Well, that's mental math, and that's 36, right? That's something, that's what we call a perfect square, 36, because a number times itself. And that's mental math from our facts. The next one is 14 times 14 times 14. I don't know about you, but I'm going to get a big number, 1 and 2. That's why we had a calculator. So let's turn our calculator on and let's clear it. Okay. And what I'm going to do is enter the number 14, and there it is. So what we're looking for here on all these buttons is this one right next to the 7. All right, it's the arrow, or I call the caret button. Hit that, and that's going to put you in exponential form. Well, it was 14 to the 3rd power, all right? And then if you just enter that, bang, you're going to end up with the product of 2744. And let's circle our final answer. So our calculator saves us a lot of time. Excuse me. 8 to the 4th power. Let's write it in expanded form. Another big number. Let's clear it. 8 to the. When I say to the, that tells me to get in exponential form. 4th power, and that is 4,096. So it's 4,096. All right, and that's a 0 there, right? Okay. So you can see how the numbers grow fast, and we call that exponential growth. Okay, next one. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 14 times 14. Okay, so let's enter this into our calculator. We're not going to just do 1 and then write the answer. We're going to do it all together. So let's enter 2 to the 6th power. Now, we have to get out of exponential form. See how the cursor's up there? I'm going to go to the right. And I'm going to hit times. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit 14 to the 2nd power. And when I hit that answer, I'm going to get a big number. 12,544. That grew fast and exponentially. So we can do multiple operations with these calculators, which is nice, right? Okay, let's move on. 15 square, all right, times 3 to the 5th power. Now, you're going to notice that I didn't say to the 2nd power. Anytime we take a number to the 2nd power, we can call that square. Square. Anytime we take a number to the 3rd power, we call that cube. Has a special name. So those are the only ones that really have a special name. All right, so let's come underneath, and let's not write these out in expanded form. All right, 15 square. All right, and let me go back, and there's another way to do that. So let's clear this, and let's just hit 15. There's another button that we can utilize when we take to the 2nd power. The right diagonal from the 2 is x squared, right? And we'll take it any number to the 2nd power, and it's 225. And I will write that down. And then we can take 3 to the 5th power, and hopefully you can see that, and that equals 243. Now we're going to use our inequalities, and we're going to put a less than sign. Next one. 6 to the 4th power equals 1296. 11 to the 3rd power, or cubed, is 1331. That's another less than sign. Let's continue, and you can pause the video. 2 to the 7th power is a big one, 128. And 7 squared is 7 times 7, and I know that's 49. And that's going to be a greater than sign. So as we look at these things, all right, we're finishing up with the last one. 4 to the 6th power is 4,096. And 5 to the 4th power, oops, made a mistake. 5 to the 4th power, and that's what happens when you don't clear it, I didn't clear my calculator and I got a big long number, equals 625, and that's another greater than sign. So the calculator's doing most of the work on all those. Not too bad, right? Your paper should look exactly like mine, and we're rolling on. Now, when we talk about powers of 10, okay, when we talk about powers of 10, all right, there's a simple and mathematical mental way to do this. So 10 to the first power is 10 times nothing, right? It's just 10. And the value or the product is 10. 10 square is 10 times 10. Now, anytime I multiply a power of 10, I'm just going to add the number of zeros. So here's a 1, and I see 2 zeros. Most of you know that 10 times 10 is 100. The third one is 10 times 10 times 10. Well, here's my 1, and I have 3 zeros, and that's 1,000. So mental math on these is going to save us a lot of time. The fourth one is 10 to the fourth power. And here's my 1, and I have, of course, 4 zeros, and that equals 10,000. The last one is 10 to the fifth power. And of course, you're getting the idea. I'm going to add 5 zeros, and I get 100,000. So when we grow a number exponentially, when it's a power of 10, we just put a 1 down and add a 0, right? And for that, if I take 7 times 100, I know that that's 700. 7 times 1 is 100, and I add zeros to it, okay? So the pattern you notice is, all right, you're just going to count, all right, the number of zeros. All right, that's all you're going to do. Okay, so in class, all right, we're going to start with this. So, all right, that was the teaching packet. So in class, I want you to go to the homework packet, okay? All right, and in the homework packet, okay, in the homework packet, here's homework 5, right there. We're going to do this in class quickly, okay? So in class, you're going to do numbers 1 to 14. All right, you're going to use your calculator, right? I just checked and make sure it was just one page. So it is only one page. So you're going to do these. We'll check these in class. Homework-wise, if you go into Schoology, there's a digital activity that says Thursday's homework. You're going to click on that, and you're going to use your calculator. And your calculator, all right, is going to help you with all of these. Okay, you're going to need to submit that. So make sure you go into Schoology and check that out. Okay, guys, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you.